Hi everyone, Chris here from IELTS Advantage with another live lesson. And in today's lesson we're going to look at the one thing that lowers IELTS writing scores the most, and it will be quite surprising to many of you. So over the weekend I was in a room, luckily I was in a room with lots of IELTS examiners, and I was chatting to them and I asked them this question: what is the one thing we could do to improve writing scores? Is the average score, according to IELTS, the average score worldwide is 5.5. And this is the one area of the test that people really do struggle with. So I had the opportunity to talk to lots of different IELTS teachers and lots of different examiners, including very senior examiners. And the question, or the answer to this question, was quite surprising. Improve Task 1 performance. So on the writing test, you're going to have to do Task 2, which is writing an essay, and Task 1, which for academic will be analysing some sort of data or a map or a process and writing a report, or for general training, writing a letter. And what came across from talking to all of these examiners especially was people do quite well when it comes to Task 2, but they don't do so well when it comes to Task 1. And this causes them, their overall score to be lowered and for them not to get the score that they need. So what is a solution to this problem? Well, improve Task 1 performance. And that's what we're going to look at in this video. So before we look at how to improve Task 1 performance, we need to understand why students don't perform as well in Task 1. So we're going to look at 4 different reasons so that you can understand those and you can address those problems. So problem 1 is complacency. What do I mean by complacency? Well, a lot of people or a lot of students, when you talk to them about Task 1, they'll say things like, it's only worth a third overall. It's only worth a third. Or Task 2 is more important. So they're very complacent when it comes to Task 1. They don't think it is that important. They're very relaxed about Task 1. But the thing I always say to those students is, if I took 1/3 of your salary, would that be okay? Would that be, that would be fine if I did that? Of course not. 1/3 doesn't sound like much, but it is actually a huge proportion, and it does really affect your overall mark. So I know that Task 2 is worth 2/3, and what a lot of people think is it's worth double. So if I put double the effort into Task 2, I'll get a really high mark overall, and I'll get the score that I need. Really, if you are aiming to get, let's say you're aiming to get a Band 7, you should be aiming to get a Band 7 for both Task 2 and Task 1, because you don't know what's going to happen on test day. And so it's really important that you are not complacent about Task 1 and you take Task 1 very seriously. Problem number 2, Task 2 bias. So a lot of people spend less time on Task 1 during their preparation. So on my course, we get students to spend an equal amount of time on Task 1 as Task 2. That might sound a little bit strange because Task 2 is worth double, but it is really important that you do that. And I think it's even if you don't spend 50% of your time on Task 1, at least spend 1/3 of your time on Task 1. Most students do not even do that. And then that means that they practice less and they get little or no feedback on their work. We run a course, like I'd say 80% of the questions we get from students is about Task 2. We also have a correction service. Again, about 80% of the writing that we get sent to us is Task 2. A very small proportion is actually Task 1. So people practice less and they get less feedback on it. And that will cause you to get a lower mark in Task 1 and a lower mark overall. Problem number 3, test strategy. So some people do Task 1 first, some people do Task 2 first. It doesn't really matter which one you do first. What matters is you spend about 20 minutes on Task 1 and about 40 minutes on Task 2. So what can happen is, if you do Task 1 first, what happens, often students will be thinking, even subconsciously thinking about Task 2. So they'll look at the Task 2 question first And even though they're doing task 1, they're not really focused on doing it because they're coming up with ideas for task 2 already as they are doing task 1. And what can also happen is they rush through task 1 because they're thinking, oh, task 2 is worth double the amount and I really need to get there. And that can cause them to perform pretty badly when it comes to task 1. Other thing that can happen is a lot of people do task 2 first. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But what will often happen is they'll do task 2 first and spend more than 40 minutes on it. 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 55 minutes. And that just doesn't give you enough time. So when you're practicing, always practice with these two together, especially when you are coming up to your exam. Let's say, a couple of weeks or a week before your exam. Try and do both of these together and make sure that you're spending 20 minutes and 40 minutes on these, because a lot of people don't do that, and then it comes into test day and they mess it up, because timing is important when it comes to test strategy. Problem number 4, unfamiliarity. A lot of you go to university, a lot of you have to write essays in school and in university, or maybe in your work you have to write reports and things like that. So task 2 is not that strange. A lot of people are used to writing those types of essays. But when it comes to task 1, they're very unfamiliar. A lot of people just are not comfortable analyzing data or writing overviews. And a lot of people are not familiar with the type of grammar and vocabulary required to write overviews and discuss trends and compare things. They're just not used to doing that. It's not because their English is bad or anything like that. It's just you're unfamiliar with it. Same with general training. A lot of people just don't write letters anymore. You might write some love letters this week for Valentine's Day maybe, but most people write short text messages, emails, that kind of thing. Not used to writing formal or informal letters. So tone is something that is absolutely crucial when it comes to general training task 1. So if you're unaware of how to use an informal or formal tone, then you're in a lot of trouble. So those are the 4 problems, the 4 reasons why people do not do that well in task 1, and then as a result don't do well overall in writing. So what's the solution to the problem? Well, it can be summarized with this little flow chart here. So the first thing you need to do is you need to learn what to do. You need to learn how to write a task 1 response, and you need to learn it within the marking criteria: task achievement, coherence and cohesion, grammatical range and accuracy, lexical resource. You need to learn how to do all of those things effectively so that you can give the examiners what they're looking for. You also need to do these things. You need to practice. So for academic, you might get a line graph, a bar chart, a pie chart, a table. You might get multiple line graphs, bar charts, pie charts. You might get a line graph and a table all mixed together. You might get a map, you might get a process. So don't make the very first time you do any of these things test day. You have to practice these things. And you might look at this and be like, that's a lot of work, but it's a lot less work than failing the test and having to do it again. So when you do these things, get feedback on your work so you know where you're going right, where you're going wrong. Most of you have never analyzed data and then created an overview. So you're going to need feedback to know where you're going right and where you're going wrong. So if you learn what to do and you practice and you get feedback on that work, then you are setting yourself up to really improve your task 1 performance. And if you're improving your task 1 performance, you're boosting your chances of getting that overall writing score that you really need. Now, I'm not saying that you should ignore task 2, but most of you need to give a lot more time, both in your preparation and on test day, to task 1. Also, what we're going to do this week, because many of you need help in this area, and because I talked to the examiners and figured out that maybe we need to help you guys a little bit more, we're going to do a new task 1 academic 5-day challenge. It's going to be completely free, and we're going to promote it this week, probably Wednesday or Thursday. We will, because we have to create all the landing pages and all those things first. So probably Wednesday or Thursday we'll open it up, and then next week from Monday to Friday we will teach you what you need to do. We'll give you some tasks to complete, and we'll give you feedback on your work so that you guys can improve. So it's completely free. We'll only have limited places available, but we will share that with you on about Wednesday or Thursday. So if you're interested in improving your Task 1 performance and improving your overall performance for writing, definitely check that out. It's just for academic. I'll create some stuff for general training guys and give that away as well, but the main challenge is going to be for Task 1 academic, and you can check that out this week. If you need any other help, feel free to go to our website. So if you type in IELTS Advantage and hit search, let's open this up and go to our website. You can check out all the help there. There's more stuff on writing Task 1, Task 2, speaking, reading, listening, vocabulary. Everything you need is there. So check that out, or you can check out our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, Instagram, all of those things, and wait for a couple of days and we'll give you more information on